It's the Fulhamish podcast, your independent voice of Fulham FC. My name's Sammy James. Welcome to the show. Today we'll look back at Fulham's 1-1 draw at Crystal Palace as we started 2026 with something that we weren't very familiar with in 2025, a draw in the league. We probably should have won it in the death, but considering we were 1-0 down with 10 minutes to go, we'll probably just about take a point. It was a bit of a frustrating afternoon at Selhurst Park, but there were some positives to pick out, and I'm joined on the podcast today by Piers Cottee-Jones. Hello.
Hello, Sammy. How are you?
Good, thank you. Dan Cooke, hello.
Hi, Sammy. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, and Happy New Year to Yasmin Mills. Hello.
Happy New Year to you as well, Sammy.
How are we all doing? Well, I guess the first question, Dan, you weren't at the game, but Piers and Yasmin, you were at the game. How much of the game did you see? Because, look, I always remember that Selhurst Park view is not great. My ticket, I forgot to get on the website early, and so all that was left were the tickets right at the back of the Arthur Waite. Oh my God, I knew it wasn't good. I didn't know it was that bad, but then I felt like I hadn't seen the game, and then Yasmin put her picture in the WhatsApp group. And actually, Yasmin, I take it all back. I think you may have had the worst view of it all yesterday, purely down to really how tall you are, I guess.
Yeah, genuinely, I think the max of yesterday's game that I saw was maybe about an 8. Like, I really could not see anything. I also had, what didn't help, so I was in the lower tier, which ordinarily I would have thought was better. But I also had a 6-foot man in front of me and a load of, also the people on my left. So this is awful for the first half. The people on my left clearly weren't meant to be sat in the seats that they had sat. So there were 2 rows of people next to me that I couldn't see round either. It was just awful.
I think I had the worst view out of everyone, and I was at home because in the 46th minute, Sky cut to an ad break and missed 2 minutes of at the end of the first half, watching adverts for sort of Sensodyne and stuff like that. And I think it was so telling how few people at Sky were paying attention to this game of football, given that Liverpool Leeds was going on at the same time, because no one noticed. No one, I was expecting an advert to suddenly cut and go back to the game. No one noticed, it just kept going.
Well, I think it's telling that I think ITV and Sky want to do a merger, don't they? Because normally it's ITV that make this mistake. Famously, I think it was the 2010 World Cup where they missed Gerrard's goal in the USA game. And then also I think there was an FA Cup replay once. I think it was a Merseyside derby. I remember watching it at school, and they missed an Everton goal whilst showing some sort of car advert. So, yeah, well done to Sky for kind of repeating the ITV trick. Fortunately for Sky, very little was missed, it seems like, in the 2 minutes of ad breaks. And before we dive into the match, Yasmin, do you have some 3-word reviews for us?
Yes, I do. Obviously, quite a lot are Tom Cairney themed, but there were some good ones. So, Richard Bamber with January 1st point. White lines, obviously 10 more years, build the statue, that sort of thing was a constant theme. Ian Robertshaw with Crystal Baller Cairney, Henry GTD with classic Cairney crystallises, and Topias Ninavara with defenders shooting practice.
Yes, a couple of big misses, which we'll come on to at the end. Piers, I'll start with you. Unchanged lineup for Fulham, and look, we've played Palace a lot in the last 12 months. Obviously, we had the 3 horrible defeats at Craven Cottage. Sort of glad that, I know there was obviously a prospect that we could have faced Palace over 2 legs in the semi-final of the League Cup if results had gone slightly differently. I'm sort of relieved that just hasn't happened, because I really hope we don't get Palace now till next December. I need 12 months off. I just need 12 months of not playing Crystal Palace. But anyway, it kind of it followed the playbook. Fulham started the brighter and Palace took the lead. What's different?
Yeah, it's pretty bleak watching Palace. In the bleak midwinter, we go back to Selhurst Park to not see any football. It's actually quite good for calf exercises if you're short, like Yasmin and me. So we need to look at the positives there of the New Year, New Me gym routines of having to stand on your tiptoes for 90 minutes. It's just so bleak going there. I actually think that we are much better at theirs than we are at ours against Crystal Palace. So actually going there, I'm always a bit more confident. We've had some good results there in the past, and it's just depressing battering them 1-1. And keeping another clean sheet with 11 players on the pitch. So we need to look at the positives here. Cuenca still hasn't conceded a goal while he's been on the pitch in the last few Premier League games. So we're just looking at it all in the wrong angle. New year, new visions, new sights of it all. I think this year getting 4 points against Palace where we've played 1 point against Palace where we've played so well against them is going to feel a bit like West Ham last year, who were absolutely cack and we only got 1 point off. It's a real missed opportunity. They had 1 day less to recover. They're absolutely shattered. It was us attacking. And just to sit there and stand and listen to that drum going dong, 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 dong for 90 minutes. I didn't hear any singing. That must be what it's like to listen to clappers back in the day at Craven Cottage. There's no atmosphere. There's no sound. There's just this drum, like you got tinnitus in the background just going at it. Terrible atmosphere, terrible view, terrible game. But at least Cairney's got great hair.
Yeah, there's one moment in the first half where the drum stopped for 30 seconds and you're kind of, your senses just like go, oh, I hadn't realised that was what we're kind of like I'd been hearing. It's just like, oh, right, actually, this is quite nice for 20 seconds. And then he must have just, I don't know, had a swig of water and then just gone back to the drum, bang, 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 bang. Dan, like, I thought we looked okay in the first half, a little bit toothless. It's kind of same old, same old. Like, we are looking quite... It's all working quite nicely. Robinson, I felt like down the left, it's definitely given us a new dimension attacking wise. Probably actually should have done much better with that chance that came about. I think Kevin actually did really well to get past Nathaniel Klein. We might come on a bit more to Kevin's performance. He put it to the back post. Wilson had an effort saved. I actually think Jimenez, that's quite a big chance that he doesn't put away. Like, he's close and he does well and he has to snap at it. He didn't have long to react, but I actually think someone of Raul's quality probably should be finding the bottom corner there.
Yeah, I think that's a classic Raul opportunity that if I think about his career as a whole, those are the sort of goals I'm used to seeing him scoring. Just right place, clinical. And I think the fact that it falls onto his left foot is part of the problem. But that was actually, there were 3 chances in that, because I think Smith Rowe, again, whilst really difficult, he opens his foot up with a volley and just doesn't get a huge amount on it. And that was another one where actually any decent connection to send that goal, but it probably goes in. But I don't know, that first half, again, Marco knows all of the issues that Crystal Palace pose when we play them, and it always stems from the fact that we have to play all of the football and therefore expose ourselves to their counterattacks, which are brutal. They are superb when they go in the other direction, and every time we play them it feels like we're so aware of that we try not to let it happen. So we try not to have too much possession. We try to play them at their own game. But inevitably, they sink even lower and force us to have the ball again. And it's like we didn't want the ball, but we just kept on having it. And it meant that we couldn't really break them down because it was all so slow. And we still looked really open on the counter. And I think that pattern sort of spanned the whole game. And it is a really difficult balance to find. And maybe I think the solution could have been, like we saw against Forest last season, when you play up against a team who do sit deep, do counter, actually just back yourself to be better. Back yourself that we are a possession-based team. We are good at this. And I think we probably could have had even more of control of that first half had we had a bit more conviction in the way that we did it. What we did was a bit half and half, and I think it played into Palace's hands a bit.
Yeah, it's quite hard that, isn't it? When you are a possession-based team and you know the way to play Crystal Palace is to give them the ball. Like, I was listening to Palace fan on 5 Live a few days ago after the Tottenham game who said if we have 60% possession we don't win. Like, it's impossible. Like, Gladstone doesn't know what to do. So that is obviously the key. But what I noticed, there was one moment in the first half where I think Joachim Andersen just punted the ball long, and part of me wondered, is he just trying to give the ball to Crystal Palace here? Is this some sort of instruction? Because it was aimed at absolutely no one. And it kind of goes against everything in their beings, doesn't it? You're a possession-based team, you want to keep the ball, be attractive, be positive, but actually the strategy to win the game here is just to hoof it straight to Mark Gahey and let them build. It's not it's not an easy tactic. It's easy to say, isn't it? Oh, just give them the ball. But actually, in reality, how do you do that without just basically giving the ball away on purpose?
Yeah, and it leads to such rubbish games of football to watch. Like I thought it was such a dreadful game. And like I'm sure in the ground, like I feel more sort of retracted from a game when I watch it on telly compared to at the ground. But I was bored in that first half. It was really dull, and the second half wasn't much better, to be honest. The fact that this game was the only game yesterday that had goals in it, and it was still second on Match of the Day. Like it wasn't like 2 goals weren't entertaining enough to beat 3 0-0 draws. I think says everything.
Yeah, I was wondering. I actually only watch Match of the Day to just see what do they do with this conundrum, because Fulham Palace should always be last on Match of the Day, but it was the only one with goals. So what do they do? In fairness, that Sunderland City game, and I did catch the second half by the time I got home, was actually a brilliant game. But like still, you'd think that like just the natural order of things is that the game with goals should come first. But yeah, no, we were rightfully not allowed the top spot probably. Yasmin, let's come on to Palace's opener. I tweeted this and it got a lot of love from Palace fans, annoyingly. I hate when like your tweets go the other way because I didn't intend it for it to be like this. But anyway, I said that Cuenca going off for a stupid tap in the mouth, Robinson being skinned by Nathaniel Klein, Mateta scoring, and then having to experience that Wenger Boys thing in person, in the flesh, was one of the least enjoyable minutes I've ever spent watching football. The Wenger Boys thing, it eked into my soul. The sound system in that way and is so loud. All I could just hear was the Wenger, and I thought they played like 20 seconds of the Wenger Boys. It must have gone on for about a minute and a half. They went into like a verse. My head was so hot.
Yeah. And unfortunately, considering that I'd probably missed the first 15 minutes of that half from like, also Muniz walking down past me as well meant that there was like a whole confusion for most of that game where I just couldn't see anything. But I could see every single moment of that goal, which felt like torture. It's not the only piece of music as well, which seems to create a rubbish atmosphere around Crystal Palace, because the last time I went, it was Hit the Road Jack during the last post. So I think the sound system has a few too many faux pas, in my opinion. It was truly, truly awful. Yeah, there were many, many things which wound me up about that goal. Starting with Cuenca as well, like it's just a really frustrating thing for him to do. Like it clearly is not a sufficient clip to be going down claiming a head injury. It's annoying that he's made that decision. I think it's right for the referee to then send him to the sidelines. That's just the way it works. If you're going to decline the staff to come on and help you, then you've got to expect to go off. Like you're clearly trying to buy some time. And then Robinson lets Klein run past him far too easily, completely mistimes his tackle, and then Mateta's just left for a free header in plenty of space. Like I don't think you can pass full blame onto Cuenca. Obviously, he would have been in a better position, obviously, to be able to defend the Klein's movement into the box rather than being on the sidelines. But I don't think full guilt falls to him, because ultimately Robinson lets Klein go and Mateta's in free space. So it's annoying. I think 0-0 going into the end of the first half would have been better. Would have been fairer.
Does anyone agree? Like Marco was like, Cuenca shouldn't have gone off there. And I want to be biased towards Fulham and, always take the side of our players. But I don't know. I just looked at that and I hate it when opposition players, go down claiming head injuries. It's not what the rule's there for. The rule is there to protect concussions and things like that, Piers. So I don't know, maybe you saw this differently, but I was surprised that Marco took that line. I just felt like we got played at our own game there. We tried a little bit of gamesmanship, tried to delay Palace in possession, and it's sort of backfired.
I'm going to say two things can be true at the same time. Cuenca shouldn't have done that, but also the rule is there to prevent time wasting and to protect player welfare. Neither of those things were relevant in this matter. Therefore, I don't understand why there's no subjectivity for the ref to take a bit of ownership and go, you're clearly not concussed. You're clearly fine. You're clearly okay. You're not trying to time waste. So stop being an idiot. Let's keep playing football. The amount of times you see players going down clutching their feet, because they think the VAR will find a bigger challenge with it. Eventually the ref will stop the play or whatever. They don't have to go off every time that happens. So I think one of the things I get quite upset with in football officiating is it's really hard to be objective in football. There's so many things that are just subjective decisions. We shout at refs the whole time, and then they'll go to the studio after and there'll be a split of whether they think it was a penalty or not. And then we're in the crowd being like, well, the ref should be sacked. But then when it comes to moments like this, where subjectivity is clearly something that should be enforced and a policy that would really help benefit the game and a bit of common sense, it's not allowed. So I find it very frustrating in that sense. So I can understand Marco's frustration because the reasons that rule exists were not applicable to this situation. But Cuenca shouldn't do that. And I feel those moments in the game, because it's not just him who's done that. He's not done something unusual here. Every time a player feels any kind of contact in the face, they go down, wait for VAR to have a look at it and see if there's a red card opportunity. So I don't blame Cuenca for it, but it's a really horrible thing in football in the first place.
I think one of the things that I find irritating about it is actually, I think the referees made the right decision not to award a free kick as well to us. Because I it's one of my biggest pet peeves in football at the moment is player has the ball, uses his body to shield it, and the defender goes down holding his face, and it gets automatically given as a free kick. Where I'm annoyed is that there seems to be no directive amongst referees. It's just like you'll get one maverick referee, which we had yesterday, who's like, no, I don't think that's a free kick in football. And so he's not giving it. But we've had that given against us so many times already this season. And it's so frustrating when it does get given as a free kick. So I totally think he made the right decision. But if all the referees could just club together and be like, yeah, we're not going to give those as free kicks, that'd be way better than just like one superstar referee being like, nah, I'm different to everyone else. My view's the correct one. I just think that's the frustrating thing for me is that like in another game, it gets given as a free kick. Palace fans all go mental quite rightly, and then nothing comes of it because play just goes on. So I think that's my frustration. The other frustration I have with it is I have no idea what Joachim Andersen's doing. It's difficult when you lose your centre-back partner, right? But he does have an extra man come in and helping. Sanderberg drops in, which does happen whenever our centre-back goes off injured. Sanderberg drops in. Why Joachim Andersen decides to defend the space rather than the man, I don't get at all. Like, there's only one player in that box who's going to cause any threat, and it's Jean-Philippe Mateta. And the fact that he just finds a pocket around the penalty spot that he's like, I'm going to cover this area, as opposed to just going man-to-man, I don't get at all. He sort of hands him off to Tete. Tete's not sure. Like, it doesn't matter if you've got 10 players on the pitch or 7 players on the pitch. Mateta can't have a free header in the box when he's the only person in the box. It was pretty shit defending, really.
On the back to the Cuenca thing, I think my only thing is, and actually Kevin had this as well in the first half. I feel like referees should be able and clever enough to detect the difference between a face injury and a head injury. Like, if you get hit in the mouth, you aren't concussed. And obviously, I know that occasionally the referee, I know that sometimes players do grab the back of their head in order to make it look like they've got a proper head injury. But in both cases, both Kevin and Cuenca grabbed their faces. And like that, your face isn't your head. You're not going to get concussed from being whacked or elbowed, even in the nose or whatever. In my opinion, I'm not a doctor, but like genuinely, I just don't really understand why we have to enforce that rule. I think the frustrating thing is actually, I think in our... Once you've done that, if you're Cuenca, take the physio. That's the only thing I think that Cuenca actually does slightly wrong here is just you're off at this point. You've got to have 30 seconds off the pitch. By this point, if the physios have entered, the referee stopped the game, you've got to go off by this point. Whether that's right or wrong, if you're Cuenca, just take the 30 seconds, take the sting out of it. Yeah, because the problem is actually we lost our man and Palace had still kind of had the momentum at that point. Look, I think as much as Andersen and Tete sort of lose Mateta, like for me, it's on if Robinson just doesn't like let Nathaniel Klein go past him and just sticks out for a throw in. the whole thing doesn't happen at source. So I do think it's on Robinson. I think he's been good since his return, but yesterday was a little bit of a regression from Anthony. He was brilliant at West Ham, but that was obviously a big mistake. Fulham then actually had quite a good chance, Piers, to level it just before the break. Bit of a weird moment. The shot from Kevin wasn't exactly a rip-roarer straight into Dean Henderson. I don't really know how I don't know if it just maybe moves mid-air or something like that, but he parries it straight back into the chance path of Harry Wilson. I feel like actually Harry should have taken that first time. Like it was quite a big opportunity.
Yeah, Dan, did you see this? Should we describe what happened to you? Were you busy watching Sensible at this point?
This actually came back. Do you know, this was after the ad break, which was handy. But I had a horrible moment when the ads were on that it was good. It was a Palace attack when it cut to the ads, and I had this horrible thought that if this cuts back to 2-0 and like Tete kicking the corner flag again, I'm going to turn the telly off.
More Wenger boys, and also on the Wenger boys thing as well, as you alluded to, Sammy, before about how annoying it is. Any club who plays music after a goal should be immediately relegated. Palace, bye-bye. QPR, bye-bye. It's horrendous. They call their amazing atmosphere, and yet they have to have music after they score a goal because they can't make any noise without that.
I disagree. It is brilliant for this exact reason, because it has rattled all of you. It serves a fantastic purpose. It's shit. It absolutely is. It's pathetic. But the fact that it works so well, like I would be so pro us doing that. Can you imagine like Rodrigo Muniz scoring? We just start pumping "Push It" out of the Craven Cottage speakers. Like, we would have everyone hook, line, and sinker. I'd love to hate it, but I think I love it because it's working wonders. The amount of people it makes miserable is brilliant.
But if we did that at the cottage, it would rattle me at the cottage every time we scored. I'd be go, no, don't score, put it wide.
Yeah, I'm sort of with Dan here that its brilliance is the way it. And we used to do it, didn't we, for Hey Baby? And I thought that was crap. Like I genuinely hated when we did that for a few seasons at Loftus Road. But this is it's why I love the Bayern Munich can Flintstones thing. Because you can imagine if like you're Augsburg losing 9-0 and you've got to listen to that 9 times. Yabba dabba doo kind of thing. Like, oh God, it must be the most brutal experience. But that's kind of what you should be aiming for as a like home ground, is like you don't want the away fans to have a nice time.
No, we didn't have a nice time. Oh yeah, lovely watching people's jackets, seeing what everyone's new spring jackets are for the new year, the backs of those. The chance at the end of the half. So how nice is it to see Kevin actually playing quite well. I mean, I've thought quite for a lot of time in the last few games, he almost dribbles like he's got his laces tied together. So it's nice for him to actually be playing with a bit more confidence and to be actually getting past people. I don't know how he got past people till I saw it on the replay because I couldn't see anything. But that shot he's had, it's as you say, it's straight down the middle. Henderson should do better and Kevin should do better. What a great block that is from, was it Lacroix who gets across and blocks it, maybe even with his head or something? It's a great bit of defending to save a goal that I think going in at 1-1, even that I don't think was a deserved result. I think we were so good in that first half and that whole game, we were so good. Very frustrating. And yeah, if Harry takes it first time, maybe that's a goal. He's on great form at the minute, finishes everything. What a shame.
Can I just pull up on, just because Piers has mentioned the Lacroix block, and Sammy, I know you mentioned it in the quick take about Palace fans laughing at Tom Cairney for taking his shirt off, being like, why are you celebrating a 1-1 draw at Selhurst Park? Crystal Palace celebrated every single block and tackle they made throughout the entire 90 minutes. Maxence Lacroix makes that block and then stands up and roars at the home end. Like, why is that anything? It's like, from their perspective, they go, no, it's just Crystal Palace. Why are you so bothered? It's just Fulham. Like, why are you so bothered? Like, I'm fed up. I hate playing.
Do we put celebrating tackles into the utter woke nonsense category? It is a little bit. Yeah,
out of the two things, utter woke nonsense is celebrating a tackle. Taking your top off is prime Barclays. We love taking your top off when you score a goal. That's fantastic. That's the best celebration there is. It should never be a booking.
I think since we don't have Pellegrini anymore, absolutely utter woke nonsense. If he comes back, no. Celebrating tackles is very essential to football.
I'm all for if it's a goal-saving tackle, but Mark Gahey did one where actually it was just for a throw-in in the second half. It also should have been a Fulham throw, not a Palace throw, and he literally celebrated to the away, and I was like, chill out, mate. You're going to probably be playing centre-back in a World Cup final maybe this summer. Like, why are you getting so excited about winning a throw?
I didn't expect this pod to be the most wound-up pod I've ever been on.
It's Crystal Palace. It does it to us every time. I don't know what it is. Just
it's us going to sleep, just hearing the
orbit.
Wenger boys going round and round. Dan, you're right. It's in my head.
I was just going to come on to Kevin because I thought that was an interesting point from Piers. And I did see some people afterwards saying, "Oh, Kevin was great." Yasmin, I feel like I'm personally attacking Kevin at every opportunity I get, and I'm not trying to. I felt like there was signs of life yesterday in Kevin's performance, but I'm still not on the he's justifying his price tag quite yet. Like, I still think there were some moments yesterday that were just deeply frustrating. Like, it was better. And he finally looked like he was able to beat a man and make a bit of space and stuff. But I still think there's a long way to go here.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe I should have stood my ground a little bit more on the Forest pot, because I felt quite critical of him after that game. And I came out of the pod going, oh, maybe I should have given him a little bit more credit where it was due, because obviously a lot of people were suggesting that, you know, the overall performance was all right because he won the penalty. But the penalty only comes because he's lost the ball in the first place. And then I do think yesterday was better. I just think where I find frustrating, and actually this is where he learns from, and this is where I think his performances will and can improve, is his defensive contributions and his work off the ball as well. Once he has the ball, he's rapid. I know you were saying, Piers, that his dribbling's sometimes slightly dodgy, but he's fast. He's forward-thinking. He has the confidence to take on his man. I said before, and I think it's still true, I don't think confidence is his problem. I think he 100% is a player who will grow incredibly nicely because he already has that. Like, that's confidence is sometimes the hardest part to get past. That's what we had with ESR. He spent the whole of last season trying to build the confidence. His quality's there, and we're finally beginning to see the fruits of that labour. But I feel very confident about Kevin's progression in the next season or so. But right now, I'm finding him frustrating. He has to play, though. Like, we don't really have any other option. And yesterday, I have much less criticisms than I did after Forest. So it's difficult. But I think where we are now is, what's frustrating is his defensive contributions.
I'm kind of with you, Sammy. I actually thought in the first half, I thought he was bad. Like, I think the first half performance was pretty similar to what we've seen from him recently. And again, like, it bothers me in the moment. It doesn't bother me long term, because as Yasmin says, I think she hit all of the points that I think are true as well. He has all of the ability. Everything that goes wrong to me sort of appears to be from a mental position of, like, not knowing the right run to make, not knowing what the right decision is. And you would hope that you can teach that. And I think in the second half, it was a lot better. He was a lot more impactful in that second half. He worked a lot better with Anthony Robinson. He found that balance of staying wide and creating space inside, and then coming inside and creating space out wide. Like, that was better. But I think we are all so desperate for it to go right that sometimes we are quite quick to over-egg a performance that, honestly, like, if Alex Iwobi puts out that performance on the left flank, I think he gets pelters for not being instrumental enough, not being involved, not being creative enough. And it's fine. I totally understand that we don't want to bag a 22-year-old Brazilian who's playing his first season in the Premier League, and I'm the same. But I didn't think that was more than a 6.5, 7 out of 10 performance, really. And that's all based on the second half. I think he was probably a 4 or 5 in the first half.
And that's the thing, we're seeing signs of potential, at least. We're not seeing the full product yet. And as you say, I don't think these are good performances, but they are better performances, and that's a good sign. But for me, the two really key things here are, for the first time, instead of having a Willian or an Iwobi mainly ahead of Robinson, who are playmakers, not sort of dribbling flair players, Well, I mean, they both have excessive amounts of flair, but not in the terms of like taking a man on, going past them. They're there to set Robinson up on the overlap or the underlap. Whereas Kevin now is someone who's trying to prove himself as the player, which means Robinson's having to adjust what he's doing now. But on the flip side of that, one of the things we started to see a bit more yesterday that we haven't really seen before as much are Kevin sucking in two defenders and that creating space for both ESR and Robinson to then exploit. And in the second half in particular, we started to see that really starting to take shape. And that's a really promising sign that there's a lot more to come, and we're starting to just touch upon it at the minute.
I understand, Yasmin, when you say that confidence isn't an issue for him, because he does try stuff and he does have that flair, as you say, Piers. But I do think he really, at the moment, is a little bit rabbit in the headlights at times. Like there's been several occasions in a Fulham shirt where he's been through on goal or bearing down on goal as a 2-on-1, 2-on-2 situation, and he panics. He just doesn't know what the right thing to do is. And you can see, I think, in that thought process, when he's got so much time to think, he worries about what decision to make, and he keeps on making the wrong one. That pass in the second half when he could have carried that ball a lot further, but instead he just pokes one forward to Smith Rowe, who's never going to outrun. Oh. He's never going to outrun Lacroix. He's never going to get there before Dean Henderson. Like, to me, and they only showed it once on the telly, I only saw it in real time, he had the opportunity to drive into that space. He was the quickest player out of everyone in that part of the pitch. And we saw it again at the Cottage. I can't remember who it was against, where he was through on goal a couple of times and just made the wrong decision or slowed down because he didn't look like he backed himself. And so I think there is still, whilst he's got flair, I think there is a confidence piece. And I think it will click. Like, he just needs a goal. If he gets a goal, I think we'll actually think what he was now was actually a small amount of flair. I think he's got a lot more in him. I think he's got a lot more tricks that he can whap out if he has that confidence under his belt. And I think he just needs a goal. Just get him a goal somehow.
On that decision-making part as well, I think it was the Klein it ended up being off target, but it was a shot from him, which he only had the time to be able to do that because Kevin made a slight pause because he underestimated the flight of, I think it was Hughes's cross. I know it takes a slight deflection off a Tete header as well, but that goes sort of across the box. But it's Kevin's indecision in that defensive moment as well. You're totally right in all those attacking situations as well, where he has the ball and he maybe overplays it sometimes, doesn't quite know what to do. But yeah, that could have been 2-0 at halftime as well, if Klein had made a slightly better effort of that opportunity.
I think Dan's right though. Like it's just decision making at this point, which can improve. You can teach decision making to a point. There was a moment for me in the first half where I think it was just another kind of classic Fulham building up down the left. Kevin had it, Robinson's on the overlap, and Kevin did some kind of like looped pass to Anthony Robinson that completely killed. And Robinson's just there like, oh, what do you want me to do with that? Like, how am I supposed? I've got to trap it down from the air. I just want it on the floor here. I don't want you to loop it up over your head like it's found me, but I've got nothing to work with here. And it was just small moments like that. And I'd forgotten about that moment in the second half, Dan. Like in the stadium, Kevin did amazingly to stop it going out. Like I didn't expect him to keep it in play, but once he had, it was a simple pass to Smith Rowe, who was through on goal. I actually don't think he needs to run himself. It's just a simple pass, and he just does that classic rabbit in headlights, put it far too far in front of Smith Rowe, and Henderson cleans it up, and then it's not a chance. He doesn't even make it a highlight, but actually in the ground at that moment, you're like, that's a potential one-on-one opportunity. And yeah, it's just those things there, which it's, for me, it's like, I see the signs of life, and I take Piers' point that it's better, but like, there's still a long way to go. I think it was obviously a big blow, I think, for Marco not to be able to have Josh King yesterday. I think that really stifled him. Let's come on to the second half, really, and we made some changes. One of them enforced Tete off for Castagne. Tete pulling his hamstring. One of those moments where the whole away end just went, oh, fuck. Just as you saw Tete pull up like that. Yasmin, I think Castagne came on and looked very, very rusty indeed. The missed chance at the end aside. I guess we just all have to keep our fingers crossed that this is Tete's out for one game, not the kind of annual, Tete's out for 5 months. It's just basically weights in the balance of whatever the physio and the medical team report, isn't it?
Yeah, Silva wasn't really able to say anything apart from he's not going to be playing against Liverpool. And I think coming out of this game as well, as much as there are shoulds and coulds about the Palace game, I actually feel quite excited about taking on Liverpool and taking on Chelsea next week, when Chelsea have decided to give everyone a New Year's present and sack their manager, and Liverpool were only able to come out with a 0-0 draw as well yesterday against Leeds. Like, I feel like we've got a bit of potential there to get some results. I'm quite excited about that. And so Tete's injury, I really, really hope is only going to be a problem for Liverpool, because I think these are 2 opportunities which would be lovely to take. We already have AFCON issues. So to then lose Tete as well. Obviously, Castagne's miss, I think, was much worse than Anderson's miss as well. Obviously, Cairney was an absolutely brilliant sub to bring on. But I was much much happier with the second half than the first half. But ultimately, there are opportunities from both sides. It's a shame. I feel quite okay with the 1-1 draw away at Palace. It's annoying because we've usually ground out results away at Selhurst Park before. But yeah, it's a shame. I really hope that Tete's all right, but it's a hamstring. Like, it's those sort of injuries which you always want to be avoiding.
No, I think you made the point in the quick take, Sammy, about how as soon as Castagne came on, suddenly the space that just Tyrick Mitchell had over and over again. It was just like his positioning, and I think maybe it's not necessarily his positioning, but his inability to then react to situations as it unfolds. Whereas, Kenny Tete backs himself. If he gets isolated one-on-one with an attacker, he backs himself to deal with that situation. Whereas Castagne tucked in so tight next to Joachim Andersen that every time Adam Wharton had the ball, he just pinged it out to the left flank to a flying Tyrick Mitchell, and they had opportunities, and then there were misplaced passes, overhit passes. One is rusty. I definitely agree that he was rusty, but 2, it was just a concerning performance overall of I've tried to like him. And I just not dislike it. I've tried, but it's just the drop off is so big. And we went through a funny period a couple of years ago where it was actually a debate of who's better. Maybe Castagne should be starting. I think we've that debate's ended now. Kenny Tete is our best right back, and the prospect of facing a Liverpool team who aren't flying, but they've got, Florian Wirtz, you've got Ekitike, you've got Cody Gakpo, and then a Chelsea team with Pedro Neto out there on the left, Alejandro Garnacho, who is wank but is quick. I don't back Castagne against any of those wingers, whereas I'd have felt a lot more comfortable if it was Kenny Tete.
Yeah, exactly on that point. I think that any player who hasn't played in a while will be rusty. And I think it was a really good opportunity for Castagne to start against Palace. If you look at, we've got Tete is one of the best right backs in the league for sure. And we want him to be playing against Chelsea and Liverpool, where we're going to have to defend for a lot of that game. Against Palace, we're not defending for nearly as much of that game. We're much more possession-based game, as we've discussed already. And I know it's said with hindsight, with Tete's injury issues and stuff, but it just seemed like such an opportunity for Castagne to start a game and give Tete a rest. He already struggles to get through 90s as it is. So then playing however many games in however few days, it feels like a real missed opportunity there. And especially, you're playing against Mitchell and Pino. They're not quite the same level as the people we're going to be playing against and defending against in the next 2 games. So I think Marco's got that one a bit wrong, said with glorious hindsight, because I am very clever.
Let's come on to Cairney. I thought this was the right sub. I was slightly surprised it was Sander, but actually think it worked. And I think we, carried on the dominance that we were pushing and pushing and pushing. The goal came, Tom Cairney. Oh my, 11 consecutive seasons in which he has scored. It's and back to the whole, I can't believe he's celebrating a 1-1 draw. He's celebrating because he's in his mid-30s. This is probably his last season of Premier League football. And this season he must have thought, maybe I'm not at this level. There must be moments this season where he thought maybe I should have taken that move to Wrexham, and I'm not getting anywhere near as many minutes. He must have had self-doubts, all these things, and he scores a wonderful goal. One of the, he's probably got, if he's got more than 5 goals left for Fulham, then I think that's a push. Like this is probably one of his last ever goals, a packed away end like that. Like, that's why he's celebrating it. And fair enough that Palace fans won't understand that. But like, that's why he's emotional. It's an amazing moment. And yeah, just one of those goals that actually we just don't see from Tom Cairney. It's such a throwback. Like, I think Jack Collins tweeted saying that's prime 2018 TC. And it just was I loved every single second of that celebration, the goal. It made the whole day, and going up to Selhurst Park and not being able to see a thing, it just made it all worth it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, the emotion that sits underneath that for him as an individual is huge, because this season it's not been his toughest, because actually some of those seasons where he was injured and we were really bad in the Premier League in particular must have been very difficult for him. But this year's been tough because he did take that sort of leap of faith almost. Like, he would have wanted to play a lot more football, and for the first half of this season he was basically playing the same role as Harrison Reed, which was doing nothing. And now to have had a decisive say in 2 of our last 3 games, right, is massive. I think that is it's huge, and it's such a lovely thing to see. I thought he was brilliant when he came on. Again, he did all of the things that you love for him. And the fact that he can stand up and say, like, you know what, I can still cut it at this level. I can still do this. Maybe I can't do it for 90 minutes, but if you need someone to put their foot on the ball and change the flow of the game, he's the best player in our squad to do that. It was magical. And it's a tough finish. I think that's one of the things that doesn't get spoken about enough. It's not like it's sat up perfectly for him. It's an okay touch that sits up, but you've got to do a lot to get the whip and the placement on that. The behind the goal camera view of it is stunning, because actually it looks for all the world that it's going to hit the post, and it's like some sort of like divine intervention just shifts it inside at the last moment to bring it inside that post. Yeah, brilliant. Again, spot on from Marco Silva to make that change. You probably preface it with the fact that it's the only change he can make. But it's great to see. And again, as Piers said, in the next couple of games where we're coming up against teams where we're not going to have a huge amount of the ball, we are going to be under the cosh. If there's a scenario, again, where we need to wrestle control of the game, bringing on Tom Cairney is really working for us at the moment. And I love it as an option, because I love seeing him play football every time he's on. Every time I see him do something like that for Fulham, I just think, my skipper. Like, I have such a love for him, and I feel like such a connection with him, because he has embodied all of the ups and downs that we've all experienced as Fulham fans for his entire time at the club. I'll never get bored of seeing him play for Fulham.
There's almost this like nostalgia you get when Cairney or Sessegnon scores. Obviously, anytime anyone scores, it's amazing. But when Cairney or Sessegnon scores, it's like when you smell Red Bull, you think of Jaeger bombs. It's just this amazing hit comes of glory days, of promotions, of Wembley, and it just slaps differently.
Yeah, you're right. I saw a tweet from Charlie Shaw who said, is Cairney still, like, do we have to reopen the one more year conversation? Which I honestly, it's like, at first I was like, no. And then I was like, but actually Dan is so right, Yasmin, that still in very isolated, it doesn't come about all that often, but there are certain matches and certain times where there's genuinely no better player to bring on. And yesterday was just one of them. You had a knackered Crystal Palace who was sat in, and TC wasn't going to get hassled or harried. He just had time to put his foot on the ball. It was just one of those moments where, like, TC is the perfect player. And I feel like if it all ends this year as everyone expects and Cairney moves on, there's going to be 2 or 3 matches next year where we're going to be on this podcast and we're going to be saying, would have been good to have TC in that match, wouldn't it? And is that worthy of, like, paying someone however many tens of thousands Tom Cairney gets a week for an entire year, basically millions of pounds for 3 good 20-minute cameo appearances? I don't know. It feels like a lot, but it is such a nice luxury. And in yesterday, we were able to play the TC card so perfectly. And it wasn't just the goal, but obviously that capped it off.
Yeah, I mean, I would have said 2-3 years ago, I would never have predicted that we could still rely on Tom Cairney as much as we have, especially in the last 2 games and at the end of last season as well. I think it was against Brentford. Like, I don't think anyone would have either. I don't think I'm silly for suggesting that I don't think I would have seen a Cairney come on and be able to control a game like he did against Palace yesterday and against Forest last week. I don't think I'm silly for thinking that. And we haven't seen that left-footed goal in so long, and it's so nice to see again. I don't think there's anything stopping him from being able to do that. I think his professionalism in the experience which he has playing for Fulham and in the Premier League and Championship as well, it all adds up, which makes him so valuable and so vital. I'll never get bored of seeing him come on. And yeah, Palace yesterday, I didn't expect it to be, but it was a perfect game for him to come on as a substitute. It was the one period where I felt most confident in the game and I saw the most fluidity as well. I think it's quite nice to have a substitute where I'm not getting too nervous about him coming on. Obviously, Traore at this minute when he comes on, and he came on again yesterday, and you're thinking, "Oh, is that the right decision?" Cairney, I don't have that feeling at all, and it's nice to have that solidity.
Like Adam Wharton, like everyone's a big man until a real big man steps onto the pitch. You know, like Adam Wharton, like yeah, fine, you can play football against Sasha Lukic and Sander Berger. Yeah, Tom Cairney comes on the pitch. Where are you now? Oh, I'm going to go and play for England in the World Cup. Yeah, 34-year-old Tom Cairney ran rings around you.
Adam Wharton went home and just looked at his Tom Cairney poster and thought, "One day, son,
That's a left foot. That's how you use a left foot.
Yeah, one day I'll be you." Today's episode of the Fulhamish podcast is brought to you by our friends at My Kind of Cruise. 2026 is here, and if you're thinking about where you're going to be going on holiday this year and a sea voyage is what you fancy, then My Kind of Cruise is the perfect website and app to compare all the different cruise operators and packages across the world. Wherever you want to go, whatever cruise line you want to go on, My Kind of Cruise has them all beautifully listed for you, and they have some amazing deals on multiple different operators. Right now, they've got some brilliant value offers on Disney cruises, ambassador cruises, whatever type of cruise floats your boat, pun intended, then My Kind of Cruise is the website to check it out. And Fulhamish listeners and watchers get an exclusive discount when they use the code Fulhamish at checkout. So go to My Kind of Cruise, use the code Fulhamish, and get a great deal on your 2026 holiday. The 2 chances at the end, I think we wish Tom Cairney had been on the end of those. The Timmy Castagne one, Dan, I just can't stop watching it. It keeps coming up on my feed as well, which doesn't help. My first thought, and Freddie, our producer, was there when this happened, I said, what a save. That was genuinely my first reaction. And if you watch the Match of the Day commentary, they go, what a save. And yes, it is a good save. But then actually, you look at it again, and actually Dion Dublin said this on Match of the Day, where I think Mark Chapman was like, oh, what a save. And Dion Dublin goes, no, he should be scoring that. Like, oh, it's just so tough. I mean, he has all the time in the world as well. He could have taken a touch. He could have had 3 touches. The Crystal Palace defenders had just gone, oh dear. Oh no, this is goal. Oh, bad. This is not good. And, I don't know how much there is to say, because like ultimately he got it on target, and 9 times out of 10 just getting on target from that kind of range and distance should be enough, and he is a right back. But I just can't stop thinking about it.
I don't know how he aims for the far left-hand post and manages to hit the middle of the goal. Like there's actually the margin of error there. The fact that he's missed by that, like for where he was aiming to where the ball actually ended up, is so big for the distance he was from the goal. Like it's one of those where, you know, when sometimes players put the ball over the bar from about 3 centimetres out and you think that doesn't feel like it's physically possible for you to have done that. That's how I felt with that. And I wish I could save him by saying, you know, it's on his weaker foot, but he plays at left back sometimes as well. Like he has a left foot. Like it's not like we're chastising Harry Wilson for not having a right foot, and therefore, well, there we go. Like, if it's on his left foot, he buries it. I can't defend it. Why doesn't he just score? The one thing I'll say, great position he picks up. Fantastic part of the pitch to just find himself in. I don't know what he's doing there, but it's a really dangerous spot. So he could have put it anywhere. He really could have put it anywhere other than there, and it's probably a goal. I was really angry, actually. I was really angry.
Piers, were you angry? Were you sad? Were you just, didn't know what to feel?
I don't know what I'm sadder about, the Castagne chance or just the Wenger boys playing on and on and on. If he goes near post, he's got like Henderson's gambling on the far post finish. I mean, even Cairney scored right foot goals. Just roll it in the near post. He could have probably dribbled it in to the near post and then got on the floor and nodded it in. He had so much space and time. It's just so upsetting. I actually had said just before that chance, I saw Castagne up there. I was like, what is Castagne doing up there? Well, clever from me. When Castagne then pops up and should score a goal. Please, why?
Yasmin, then the Joachim Andersen one. I mean, I can't even imagine if Joachim Andersen has scored 96th minute against Crystal Palace. Like, I think the away end would actually have gone feral if that happened. I sort of think this actually isn't the world's easiest opportunity. Like, he's on the swivel. There's about 5 Palace players. He has. I don't know. This is nowhere near as bad as the Castagne one for me. Like, he should, obviously, I wish he had just kept it lower and stuff. But this one, I understand why he missed in a way.
Yeah, this one's a shame. Like, at this point, I can't feel my feet. The thing I would love the most is to be able to jump up and down and get the blood rushing through my feet again. And I think it's also a shame because Jimenez does so well to get on the front of that, run to the front near edge of goal and get the header in. And it's annoying because there's space. If Cuenca had done the same thing as Jimenez, like, he would have been in that space, but the ball lands just behind where Andersen really wants it. And it would have been nice for it maybe to have been at a slightly lower angle. I mean, it is quite a mega miss, which I think makes it frustrating. But it's not the one that is coming up on my feed so much. It's not the one that I'm losing sleep over. So, I think it's okay. I think it is, mainly it's just a shame because Andersen in that last minute would have been absolutely wonderful, particularly as it was against Palace, and particularly because I was worried I was going to have to go to hospital because I needed my foot amputated.
He takes it such a centre-back. Like, if you didn't know who he was and you just watched it, like, that's how a centre-back volleys a ball. It was like how you would clear it. When you see like a goalkeeper take a penalty and they take it like they're taking a goal kick, sort of very similar to that. Like, it was unnatural. He gets great connection on it, but I don't think it's a great, like, if it does fall to a forward, I think it's a better opportunity, but context taken into account, it's tough, and I wouldn't expect him to score. I think that's what I would say.
With the Castagne opportunity, 8 or 9 times out of 10, that's going in, no matter who it is. I think that's where you can what makes me feel slightly better about that one is Henderson does do well, obviously, to save that. Ultimately, it's annoying, and it's Castagne's fault that it's a missed opportunity, but I think he is also unlucky. The Andersen one, I think you do need a specific type of player to be on the end of that ball for it to be a proper opportunity.
The one with the Castagne chance, obviously the player that should have been in that position was Adama Traore. Could you imagine if that had been Adama who missed that? There'd actually be a witch hunt if that had been Adama, who might have played his last game for Fulham. Given the rumours to West Ham, we've probably touched on some transfer stuff. There's been quite a lot going around in the last couple of days. Piers, on the Adama, I don't know who West Ham think they're signing, but I think they think that he's going to save them from relegation. The one position I would have thought that West Ham were okay with was the right-hand side of the forward line because they have Jared Bowen, who... but anyway, they seem hell-bent on making Adama Traore their one and only hope. I mean, 2.5 to 3 million for someone who we got on a free, who I assume was going in the summer anyway. Feels like a bit of a no-brainer. Clearly, like Fulham maybe need someone to come in. It looks like now Raheem Sterling might be that guy. I don't know. What do you feel about this? I feel like I'm not massively excited about Raheem Sterling, but he feels like an upgrade on Adama Traore. And if we're going to get money to do this effectively, probably a no-brainer.
Well, I think from West Ham getting that deal through, Jared Bowen's got nothing on Adama and Mitroglou, so they should definitely go and get that signing done. One thing I would say about the away fans yesterday is when Traore came on, we sang his name a few times and we fully backed him, we're fully behind him, and that's what you need to do with your players. While they're wearing your shirt, you fully support them, and no matter how many weird decisions they make, and if they choose to leave, then you can maybe change your opinions on them and start getting the Harvey Elliott boos out. When it comes to Adama does provide a real change of option, but the fact that he's not come on, it shows how well Harry Wilson's been playing, mainly that Adama's not been getting the minutes, that Wilson's a far more dangerous option than chaos ball with Traore on the right. I was very against Sterling being signed in the summer, and I'm still pretty against Sterling being signed now. The only way I've changed in that is we are so desperately short, and if that's the only person we're linked with, he's not going to get into the England squad in the summer. I don't quite know where his career is going at the minute, Sterling, but Marco's good at reviving those kinds of players. And after 6 months of not playing football, Chelsea should be very amicable for his loan wage demands. I kind of wouldn't have too much faith with either of them coming on towards the end of a game. So I'm not particularly excited by either of them.
Yeah, I'm quite torn on this because I think Adama's been just frankly rubbish this season, and he has irritated me greatly at times, and I feel bad for that because I don't think it's intentional. And we have people shouldn't rewrite history. He has had his good moments for Fulham, and actually for a free transfer for 2 years, he's really served an okay purpose. He's done enough for us not to hate him. I think people are just a bit fed up of him now, as I am, which is fair enough. My issue with it being Sterling coming in, and also it seems like this Traore deal is going to get pushed through fairly quickly. Raheem Sterling's not good to go. He's not ready, match fit. If we sign him today, he wouldn't be ready to come off and play 20 minutes against Liverpool. And the issue you've got there is if we're sending someone out of the club who is able to do that and bringing in Sterling, it doesn't benefit us in the short term. It will take Sterling, a month to get up to speed, at which point we have Chukwueze back, we have Alex Iwobi back, and suddenly we've got 4 wingers again. And then we've just, Sterling will be the 5th option. And I don't know how much benefit that's going to bring us. Obviously, if it clicks and he's fantastic, brilliant, then it pays off. But I could also see this being a little bit of an Armando Broja sort of loan where he comes in because we need to plug a hole, and actually that hole gets filled quite quickly and he's no longer needed. And he just sits and does nothing for 6 months. I would rather something that was a little bit more ready to go, which I accept is tough to find, because you're saying to someone, you're going to be our second choice winger for a month and then potentially our 3rd or 4th. But I think Sterling isn't really what we need right now.
See, I just have faith that this can be, for me, another Marco Silva rejuvenation masterclass. I still think that there probably is, and Marco's been brilliant, hasn't he, at kind of wringing the dishcloth of players. Willian, no one thought there was any football left, and there was a little bit. There wasn't loads, there was only a year or so of good football. Raheem Sterling at 31, I think if we don't break the bank to make this work, and presumably what we will do is reinvest some of the money we're getting in for Adama into Sterling's wages, which we will have to cover a significant chunk of, you'd imagine. I just have a funny feeling that it might work. It's based on nothing but hunch here, but there was obviously a world-class player in Raheem Sterling. He was scoring in the Euros only 4 years ago. There is still a player there for me. I think that there's a chance this could work. The other signing we've been linked with is Ricardo Pepi from PSV as a potential striker option. He's one of these players that's been kind of on the periphery for years, Dan. I can't say that I've watched an awful lot of Pepe, but I do know about him just from some of the work I've done with Men in Blazers, and he's obviously kind of one of the big... I wouldn't say he's the American hope, because they will start Balogun in the World Cup if fit, and then he's obviously competing with the likes of Haji Wright as well to also play. The thing about Pepe that I've seen is he's he's quite a clutch player, i.e. he scores big goals late on. He's been a bit of an impact sub for them. And I always think that's quite a positive sign, is even if players aren't scoring bags of goals, Pepe is the kind of player that actually might work for us. We're looking for someone effectively that's happy as well to do 10, 15-minute cameos at the end of matches. And Pepe is that player with the potential to go on at his young age and maybe break in and become a first choice. So I'm sort of for this. I get the reservations over him and that lots of players come in from the Dutch league and are overhyped. But this is one for me that as long as we don't break the bank for someone like Pepe, I'm sort of excited to give it a try.
Yeah, you know what, me too. I think what it feels like conceptually, like if we just ignore him as a player, like for a second, conceptually, I think it's sensible because what you're having here is succession planning for Raul. And Raul might get one more year potentially, depending on what we do with the striker situation, and he'll be that third choice striker. And therefore, if you sign someone like Ricardo Pepi now, he gets 6 months as he'll get 2 months as a backup to Raul. He'll get some minutes. He'll then probably spend the last couple of months of the season maybe being third choice, maybe not getting a huge amount of game time, depending on how he performs. But then when you hit the summer, you've got someone who's bedded in for 6 months and is ready to be understudy to Rodrigo Muniz. And I like that as a flow. I think that's a sensible move. It's the right kind of thing. I like that he's a slightly different profile of striker. He's not the hold-up man, drop into pockets of space and link the play. From what I've seen of him, he's much more in the box, get on the end of things. Like when you look through his numbers, where he excels really is being on the end of chances. You know, he generates a high XG. His XG per shot is high, which means that when he does get the ball and when it's usually in and around the box in good positions to try and score goals. And I think that's maybe what Fulham are lacking a little bit. And we've seen it whilst Raul has been superb and his effort has been wonderful. He's lost that knack of being that poacher that I think he was great at. As he's got older, he is much more a facilitator of play than he is a pure finisher. And I think that's probably what we need in this team, is someone who is able to just position themselves between the sticks, around the 6-yard box, and get on the end of things. So I quite like it. I don't know how much I like it for £35 million, which is sort of what I'm seeing banded about. That's a big risk. But taking all of that out of it, if you just take football now as you've got to pay what you've got to pay to get the players that you need, I'd kind of find it fun. It would be I think it could be an interesting thing. I think you mentioned it, Sammy, and I don't know if you want me to say this, but from a marketing perspective as well, like from like a player profile, like raise the profile. I quite like that as well. We'll see. I don't know how much legs it's got. I've seen PSV fans saying that, you know, we could hold out here and really take way more. They don't want to sell for any less than 50, 60 million, at which point it becomes an impossible deal. But £30 million, I think, is quite a tipping point for me. I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah, well, look, I think it's interesting with Pepe, right? We will come on to him a little bit more, I think, in time. Like, it's not a guarantee that we're definitely signing him yet, and it needs a little bit more than 3 or 4 minutes at the end of the podcast, really, as a throwaway point, because I think it's a particularly interesting signing for lots of reasons, as Dan kind of alluded to there. But we know that signing is not going to be made until the 31st of January anyway, so there's not really too much point in diving deep into it on the 2nd. Yasmin, before we go, Liverpool on Sunday, obviously the fixtures are piling up. I mean, the fact that it's just so many games at this time of year, when, you know, half the Premier League teams are also missing so many players because of the AFCON. I find that the whole fixture scheduling here a little bit mad, like, and the fact that the AFCON is where it is because of the Club World Cup, don't get me started. But anyway, that's not the point for here or now. It's not a bad time to be facing Liverpool, right? We know that they're the Premier League champions. They also have actually been on an all right run in the last month or so. They have recovered from the horrendous run that it felt like they went in around October. But still, like, every time I've watched Liverpool, I've just not been impressed. They've been getting wins and getting it over the line. But actually, I think they'll be a bit fearful coming to Craven Cottage on Sunday. They'll see that Fulham are in form. Only the top three, I heard this on Match of the Day last night, have got more points in the last 9 games than Fulham. Like, Fulham are in form. They're not going to relish coming to Craven Cottage on Sunday. I guess, like, we haven't got time to massively delve tactically into this match, but I think Fulham should have no fear. And actually, because there's points in the bag, let's just have a go, I think.
Yeah, I think this is like the perfect time, really. If anything, I don't think I would have predicted at the start of the season that I'd be saying this before an upcoming game against Liverpool, but I am. I don't think a draw against Palace is going to stop that confidence. I'm quite excited. I'm really excited about Chelsea as well. Yeah, Liverpool have steadied the ship, absolutely, but I'd say only slightly. The results they've got are results expected, and they weren't easy for them to achieve either. I'm really excited. I mean, it would be interesting to see. Obviously, we don't have Tete. Like that will be, I think, the difficulty. But I don't think there's any reason why we can't go into this with expectations and the confidence to just run riot around them. Yeah, it's difficult to predict. The other thing is they have Arsenal coming up, so I think their focus will be on that rather than, even though they would love to get some nice easy 3 points off us if they could, but we could be a bit of a banana skin for them again.
Yeah, Piers, obviously last year we were the first team to beat Liverpool, at home as the opposition, but it was Liverpool's first away defeat last year. We also have played well against them, really. Up at Anfield, we've always been a bit of a match for them. So I think this iteration of the Fulham team isn't that afraid of playing Liverpool and always seems to get some sort of result against them, even if, obviously they have won matches. But yeah, it just feels like Marco Silva tends to find a good way of playing them. So it's going to be difficult for us. We know this. I think if we had the full squad available, I think I'd be very, very confident. But yeah, I see no reason that Fulham can't come out of this with at least a point.
And that's a really good point you mentioned on the full squad being available. At the minute, Fulham squad, we've had 2 academy players on the bench, would have had one for King. Tete injured, potentially out for Liverpool. We're really thin on the ground. We've got Adama as about the only attacking substitution. We've got Cairney to come on, and then we're sort of just flipping coins of what to do in matches. Whereas Liverpool's squad, having spent 6 trillion in the summer, they've got so many options. They've got so much depth, and they should be so much better at dealing with this festive period of games. I would be really confident going in if we had Tete at right back, because that defence has been so solid. We've conceded 1 goal when we had 10 players in 4 Premier League games now, 3 Premier League games. So that's the worry. Hopefully with some minutes to Castagne, he'll be a bit less rusty on Sunday, but we've done well against them. Marco has their number. Hopefully they won't get Marco's number when they get rid of Slot, but it's a great opportunity. Let's hope we can do well on it. But I do worry about how thin our squad is right now and how hard they're all working, but we've been resilient. We've showed great characteristics and great mentality so far. So let's hope we can do it one more time. Be nice to ruin Liverpool's day again. We're quite good at doing that.
Yeah. I think intent is going to be key here. I think in the same way that it was key against Manchester City and we got our balance wrong at the start of that game, too much respect. I think this Liverpool team are there to be got at if you just if you just fly at them. Their balance in midfield isn't right. They struggle out wide in terms of defensive fullbacks. I think that they haven't got the right balance there. So I think Fulham need to not be subservient and show respect to the last season's champions. We need to stamp our authority on this game because we are good enough, and it's not going to be easy. Like, Liverpool are going to have chances, and therefore we need to make sure that we are fighting down the other end as well to get ourselves on the score sheet.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll leave it there for the podcast today. Yasmin, what would you like to go for as the podcast title?
Quite like the alliteration of Henry's classic Cairney crystallises.
Very nice. Yeah, perfect. I was trying to work out where Henry came into the title for a second there, but then realised you meant that Henry submitted the 3-word review. I was like, who's Henry? Yes, no, that makes total sense.
Is it a goal worthy Thierry Henry? That's what I was thinking. I was like, where are we going with that?
No, it's all coming together. Anyway, I'm off to go listen to the Wenger Boys on repeat. So we'll leave the podcast there. Dan Cooke, thank you very much.
Boom, boom, boom. Thanks, Sammy.
Piers Cottee-Jones, thank you.
I was about to say that as well. I'm just going to go cry into it now.
Piers is in the room, and Yasmin,
all my
thank
musical
you.
theatre training will come through to Wenger Boys through the rest of the day. I'll have to be doing all sorts of pirouettes at home.
No, thank you, Sammy.
All right, have a good weekend. We will go again on Monday with a review of the Liverpool match. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening, and have a good weekend. You whites.
You whites.